Hello friends and foes of Middle-earth, and welcome back. It should be clear to all by this point that Amazon is not going to stay very faithful to the source material. I'm not very impressed by the released material by Amazon so far, and feel it's about time we go through everything they've shown so far.
One does not simply walk into Mordor.
Will this show be lore accurate, or will it not? So in the right corner of the screen, we'll have a counter for lore inaccuracies, and in the left corner, things that are in fact lore accurate. And in the bottom, we'll have a counter showing my personal ups and downs. And at the end of it all, I'll give a conclusion and we can talk a bit about what to look forward to, if anything. Now keep in mind there might be things I didn't notice, so there might be more mistakes than those I point out today. And likewise, the points in the middle are pretty much my personal opinion, so take it with a grain of salt. And we will be nitpicking.
Is this not why you are here?
So, without further ado, let's begin. And what better place to start than to start with the map of Middle-earth. Not only does it give us an idea about the size of the world, but it's also the thing that Amazon released first. Now, when they actually did that, they released a version of the map with a huge mistake on it. They placed Austin Ethil, where Tarbad is located. Now, that may not seem like a big deal, as the two settlements are fairly close to each other, but keep in mind that this is a Second Age show, and they somehow failed to place the capital of Eregion. You know, the actual location where the Rings of Power are forged. Now, they did correct this fairly quickly, so I won't give it a lore-inaccuracy point, but it's a personal thumbs down for me for not double-checking stuff like that. That being said, the map is actually some of the best stuff released by Amazon so far. It is somewhat debatable where Numenor should be located, but this seems just fine, no complaints. It's quite a nice detail to include Ras Morthil, as it's lore accurate for the time, and mentioned in the story about Tal Darien's travels. That's in the Unfinished Tales though, so I'm a bit confused how they got the rights for that. Londea on the other hand. Well, it was called Vignalonde in the beginning, but changed name to Londea when Pelagia and Tarbad was also founded by the Numenorians. Neither of those cities are marked, so either they didn't find it important or it's a mistake. It's hard to judge, as it depends when the Second Age the map is meant to portray, and we know they will time compress the entire thing, so I'll have to give it a pass on this one, but give a big lore inaccuracy for the time compression. I'm a bit surprised not to see Andunje marked as a city on Numenor. Not only was it very important, but it was also the largest city until the Dark Days, when Armenelos, the capital, became larger. So I'll have to give another lore inaccuracy point for that. Also, the Iron Hills have quite a weird shape, and are way bigger than on any other maps I've seen. Minor stuff, but still. Last thing I want to point out here, before we move on, is the Isle of Tol Himling, as they call it. Well, first, it's never called Tol Himling, nor Tol Himring, even though it is an isle indeed. But as I've mentioned in my video about islands in the Third Age, Himling is actually Tolkien's early name for what would later become Himring in the Silmarillion. There are several maps with this name though, but it's still a mistake. Let's move on to the first image released. Now this is probably the best image released so far, at least in my opinion. We are clearly somewhere in Valinor. I've heard people assume the city is Valmar, the city of the Valar. A better guess would be Tyrion. The tower and the description seems to fit quite neatly to this location, so I actually think it looks good. And they seem to follow the description of the city, so I'll give it a personal point and a lore accurate point for that. And in the background we also have the two trees, Laurelin and Telperion. Quite a nice thing to feature. I'm a bit confused what they have the rights to show though, and what they don't. But let's move on, as things go downhill from here. Back in September last year, there was an interview with Sir Lenny Henry, and it sparked quite a debate. As we were told, Harfoots will play a part in the show. If you're unfamiliar with the Harfoots, they are one of the 3 breeds of hobbits that would later live in the Vales of Anduin. Harfoots, however, have nothing to do in the Second Age, as hobbits are first mentioned around year 1000 of the Third Age. Could hobbits have lived in the Second Age though? Most likely yes.
Don't turn me into anything unnatural.
But I find it unlikely that they were called Harfoots at the time, and they certainly didn't play any important roles in the Second Age. So I'll have to give it a lore-inaccuracy point. And then we come to the next issue with the Harfoots. And this is a bit more of a controversial topic, so the sort of topic that could get you cancelled in the modern world.
Not listening. Not listening.
But still we have to discuss this. The skin color of the Harfoots. Yes, it is true that they are mentioned to have browner skin, but it's taken out of a context. It is compared to the two other breeds. Fallowhides are mentioned to be fairer of skin. It is therefore an overinterpretation of the text to think that Harfoots are black. The skin tone would be darker, sure, like if you compared a Greek to an Irishman. I do understand that Amazon want to be inclusive and have a more diverse cast, but it's lore inaccurate. And after all, that is what we're looking at today. So, another point. We got a minor teaser revealing the title of the series, and not much to say about it really. It looked a bit fake to me at first, but I think that has something to do with the way it's filmed. The title is a bit long, though I get why they would call it that. The name still feels better than if it was called the Second Age Show or something. So personal up from me at least, though I'm being a bit generous here. Let's move on to the posters released in the beginning of this year. Now there are quite a lot of posters, so we won't go into detail with all of them, but let's start with Adar, a made-up character that many thought to be the Witch King or Sauron in the beginning. Adar is said to be the brother of Galadriel, and is also breeding orcs.
You're a liar!
Now this is inaccurate, but I don't think it's confirmed by Amazon yet. And neither that he will breed orcs, and neither that he will be the brother of Galadriel. But still, if that is true, another lore-inaccurate point for that. Next image. What seems to be a Rohirrim-inspired sword for another made-up character called Halbrand. Now, the Rohirrim and their ancestors did not play a role in the Second Age. So I'll have to give another lore-inaccuracy point here. Galadriel's dagger. One of the better posters, and actually a design I quite like, as it depicts the two trees of Valinor that we also saw earlier. I'll give it a personal point from me. I could say more about the posters, but I think all of these characters are shown later, so let's talk more about them then. And that is all for part 1. In part 2 we will cover the infamous Vanity Fair article and talk about all the accusations back in March and February. This video took a bit longer to edit than first anticipated, but hopefully the next couple of episodes will be ready soon enough. Don't worry, we will catch up with the new stuff eventually, and by then have the full picture. The channel has also been monetized, so that's very exciting. Feel free to support me with the super thanks function if you like what I do here. It helps very much and makes it possible to improve future videos. I'm also setting up a Patreon, so stay around for more about that. Farewell till we meet again.